Hey everyone, and welcome to the third episode of United States GeoGuessr Tips. Today we're going to take an in-depth look at each state and territory highway system. This will include going over what each state's highway shield looks like, numbering patterns, and more. I'll also go over some general tips and tricks to start. Let's not waste any more time and get into this. To clarify exactly which roads I'm talking about in this video, I'll be focusing specifically on primary state highways for each state. Many states have secondary highways or county highways, but I'm saving those for a separate episode. When viewing state highways on Google Maps, they'll typically be the third most prominent type of road visible, behind interstates and major US highways. As such, most state highways are visible in yellow, as seen here, although occasionally state highways will show up as a white road. This happens a lot in smaller states in the Northeast, but it's noticeable all across the country. It's also worth noting that basically all state highways on Google Maps, regardless of what state they're in, will be marked with a circular symbol. This usually helps to set them apart from county and secondary highways, which are typically marked with rectangular symbols. On the other hand, Apple Maps displays the unique shields for each state when looking at the default map, so this is a good way to get some practice in while browsing a map. If you think you're on a state highway while playing GeoGuessr, it's a good idea to check street signs at intersections if you can. Sometimes these signs will show the state abbreviations, such as in Illinois, where state highways are commonly marked ILL Route X. Even if it doesn't show the state name, it may show the route number. It's also possible that the road you're on is a US highway instead, in which case it's pretty likely that the street sign will say US Highway X. Now we're gonna go state by state through all of the highway shields. Let's get the easiest ones out of the way first. These are states that straight up just say the name of the state or its abbreviation on their shields. To start, the states and territories of California, Guam, Minnesota, Nebraska, Tennessee, and Wyoming are unique shields and say the state name. Beyond this though, there aren't really any tips or tricks to share about them, and sadly there's not much of a numbering system to be found in these states either. Alaska's shield features the Big Dipper. There are only 12 state highways, so memorizing where they are could be useful. I made this map to do just that. American Samoa has an interesting green shield with the name at the top. I personally can't recall ever seeing this shield displayed on any roads, but it's still worth knowing what it looks like. DC has its own highway shield, but there's only one road classified as a DC numbered route, and that's Highway 295 in the southeast part of the city. Idaho's shield was changed last year to no longer have the state name, but before this the shield had both the state name and outline, and you'll still see these signs all across the state in Google Street View. Illinois and Indiana have very similar shields, but since they say the state name, you'll usually be able to tell them apart. While Illinois state highways are not organized in any particular pattern, Indiana state highways are well organized. Generally, odd-numbered roads run north to south and increase going west, while even-numbered roads run east to west and increase going south. There are many exceptions, but it's very useful to remember this pattern. Louisiana switched the color of its shields in 2008 from green to black. However, you'll still see the green ones around sometimes. Maryland's highway shield has its name at the top. On interstate highway signs, the shield often doesn't say the name, but still has that line at the top, making it recognizable. Montana's shield is similar to Illinois and Indiana, except it has a thick black border. On interstates, the shield is just a square with a number in it on many signs. Nevada's shield has both the state name and state outline on it. The highways here have a really interesting numbering pattern. Almost every state highway has 3 digits, and similar numbers are grouped together based on which county the roads are mostly found in. The numbers of these roads increase in alphabetical order of the counties. I made this map showing which number group corresponds to which county. Keep in mind that this is pretty general, and many roads spill into nearby counties. North Dakota changed its shields in 2016, so you'll see 2 on the roads, the old one featuring a Native American silhouette, and the new one with the state outline and name. Rhode Island's shield has the abbreviation RI at the top, but the square shape isn't very unique and can look similar to neighboring New England states. This is made worse by the fact that some old signs on large highways don't include the RI, making the shield into a plain rectangle. South Carolina's shield is uniquely white and blue and says the state name in small letters at the top. The old highway shield was more of a plain square, and many signs along interstates and big highways still have this design on them. The Texas shield is also very similar to Montana, Illinois, and Indiana, and has a thick border like Montana. Texas has a lot of other state road classifications, but we'll talk about those in the secondary highways episode. Vermont's shield has a green design with the state name at the top. Some state highways in Vermont are town-maintained local state highways, and these use a plain white circle shield. Another easy kind of state highway shield is the state outline shield. Of course, these states just use their shape as the design for their shield. Again, we'll start this category off with states that don't really have a numbering pattern or any tips and tricks to go along with them. Those states are Arizona, Georgia, Ohio, and Oklahoma. Some of the states in this category use the standard directional rule for their state highways. Generally speaking, odd-numbered highways run north to south, and even-numbered highways run east to west in these states. This is seen in Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Missouri, and South Dakota. Florida's highways also increase in number going south and west, and this graphic from Florida's Department of Transportation explains the numbering system in depth. Another Florida tip is that street signs on many state highways are labeled as SRX. This is a really common feature across the state and is a great way to recognize Florida quickly. South Dakota's roads also increase going south and west. Street signs along state highways in South Dakota will often say SDX, which is pretty obviously the abbreviation of the state, but still worth pointing out as it's very common. Now let's move on to states that have identical or nearly identical highway shields. This can make recognizing these states from just their highway shields pretty tricky, so knowing the general landscape of these states and other tricks can help a lot with that issue. Starting us off are the states with white square highway shields. Annoyingly, Connecticut, Maine, and Massachusetts, all found in New England, are the three states that use identical white squares with black borders. By far the most important thing to know here is that in Connecticut, the shield has a slightly thicker border in comparison to Massachusetts and Maine, which are exactly the same shield. I also threw together this chart showing unique road numbers to each of these states. It's probably pretty hard to memorize this, and it might be incomplete, but it could still be useful. West Virginia also has a white square shield, but it's distinct from the New England trio because of its thick border. Another important note is that almost all state highways here show up as white roads on Google Maps instead of yellow. There are also some states that use plain square shields on interstate highways when in reality they have more complex designs. As previously mentioned, Montana, Rhode Island, and South Carolina do this a lot. Use caution if you see a sign like this on the interstate. Next up are the circle shields. These are my personal least favorite shields since there are just so many scattered across the country. Iowa, Mississippi, Kentucky, Delaware, New Jersey, and the US Virgin Islands all use a plain white circle as their main highway shield. There are some very useful tricks that apply to these places, so let's get into it. The US Virgin Islands have a very different appearance to the rest of the country, and there's also very obvious car meta here to help you recognize it. In Kentucky, the circles expand to be oval-shaped with 3- and 4-digit state highways. 4-digit highways are also unique to Kentucky among the circle states. Iowa started using wide shields for its 3-digit highways in 2014, however these signs are uncommon on Google Street View, so a lot of times you'll see 3-digit highways still in circle shields. Mississippi state highways are organized very well in a logical pattern, which is useful to know. Highways with odd numbers run north to south, and these highways increase going east, starting with 1 near the Mississippi River and 25 near Alabama. The pattern then repeats itself from 27 to 41. Routes 43 and higher are usually found in the south part of the state. Even-numbered highways are similar. They run east to west and increase in number going south. For example, 2 is near Tennessee, while 26 is near the Gulf. After 26, the pattern generally resets and continues from the north again. There are some exceptions to this general pattern, and I highly recommend reading through the Wikipedia article about Mississippi's highways. New Jersey and Delaware also use ovals for their 3-digit highways, but they are much more rounded compared to Kentucky and Iowa. In Delaware, the same odd and even numbering system as Mississippi is generally found, but there are several exceptions of course. In New Jersey, you'll often see signage like this mile marker or this street sign, which displays the state highway shield on it. This is very common in New Jersey, but not in the other circle shield states. In addition to all of that information, some places have county and secondary roads that are circles and ovals too, just to make things worse. As mentioned, Vermont's locally maintained highways use the circle shield. Puerto Rico uses circle shields in many places for its roads, and Virginia's secondary highways use circle shields, and they're all 3-digit numbers. Lastly, we've got the two diamond shield states, Michigan and North Carolina. Most times you'll be able to tell these apart easily because Michigan's shield has an M at the top. However, many signs on the interstate will just show a plain diamond, which then makes it look just like North Carolina's shield, so be careful with these two. The final category is highway shields that are entirely unique to one state. Once more, we'll start with states in this category that don't really have a numbering system or any major tips to share. These are Colorado, Kansas, New Hampshire, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Utah, Virginia, and Wisconsin. Hawaii's state highways are organized conveniently by island based on the first digit of the highway number. I made this map to help with memorizing this pattern. The Northern Mariana Islands also organize their highways by island, but since Google Street View only exists on roads in Saipan, it isn't extremely necessary to know this pattern for GeoGuessr purposes. Puerto Rico's highways are pretty complicated, so we'll have a lot to talk about in the secondary highways episode. However, for the primary highways which use this blue shield, there's no numbering system. Washington state highways feature the profile of President Washington himself. The two-digit highways here generally follow the odd goes north-south, even goes east-west pattern. That's all for this episode of the US GeoGuessr Tips series. Thanks for watching. Make sure to check out the other videos in the series and subscribe for more GeoGuessr videos. I'll see you next time.